Hey guys, Keir here coming to you live. Hopefully you had a great weekend. This week's message is focused on this. The 3 key strategies and elements that you need to implement to convert a prospect to a client. And by that I mean specifically a seller, a listing prospect into a listing client, or a buyer prospect into a signed buyer client that you represent. So here are the 3 key elements that we use in our practice with success to do this at a really high rate. The first is understanding that prospect's pain point or problem. What are they looking to solve specifically, right? So for a seller, for instance, generally they need to get their home sold. And most likely, most sellers, right, rationally speaking, would like to sell that home for the most amount of money in the shortest duration of time. But obviously, this differs too, meaning some sellers place a little bit more weight on timeline, level of motivation, right? Willing to take a little bit less of a price. Some might place more value on the relationship. Sometimes older clientele really want to make sure that they trust and like who they're working with as well. Numbers aside, stats, your record, etc. aside. And on the buy side, generally we have to convince oftentimes buyers why it's in their best interest to work exclusively with a buyer's agent, right? With a buyer rep. So we need to understand first, what's their biggest problem that they're trying to solve here? Well, they're trying to find the right property. They're trying to do it with somebody who understands them, their needs, their wants, their desires. They want to like who they're working with. They want to trust them to represent their best interests, to create showing agendas and itineraries, to go through all of the things that they need to make sure are getting done, and to educate them, right, on the process. So we need to make sure we empathize and understand both the general problem, right, but also the unique problem and pain points of the prospect and the person we're sitting in front of, whether it's in person or virtually. That's the first thing, understanding that, right? The second is demonstrating certainty in the solution. By that I mean showing that prospect, seller or buyer, that we have the plan and the solution that solves that problem and that pain point for them with 100% certainty. So if we're not confident in our own ability to deliver on the plan, and if we don't have a strong plan before we even meet and go into the meeting, it's going to be hard to demonstrate, right, and show and exude confidence and certainty. So we're probably going to have a hard time converting that prospect into a signed client. So certainty is big. The ways in which you can gain higher levels of certainty, which will lead to higher levels of conversion, right? Because, we really attract what we exude and put out into the world, is over-preparedness. Be really prepared for meetings. Know exactly what you want to accomplish. Know as much about the prospect as you can. Understand your plan as well as you can. Have it articulated, role play it, do it in front of a mirror if you need to, or on a video to see areas that you can improve, right? And to really make it polished and as good as it can be. So certainty is the second key element to conversion. And the third is leadership, meaning people want a leader. They want a guide to help them through this process. So whether you're working with a buyer or a seller, they need a leader who is educated, who is confident and certain, who they trust and like, almost above all else, to get them through this process. And it's a big process. It's one of the largest, if not the largest assets, whether they're selling it or buying it, in their financial lives. So they need a leader. They need demonstrated leadership. So those 3 things, if you can work on improving your skill set and your muscle in those 3 areas, bottom line, you're going to close more appointments into signed clients. And what does that mean? When we close more prospects into signed clients, it's a leading indicator of more commission income and higher sales growth. Because then if we do a good job, we're going to be closing those buy-side deals, right? And we're going to be closing and marketing properly and closing the listing side as well, raising our income, raising our sales volume, and raising our reviews and creating more raving clients. So work on these 3 areas. The one is understanding and empathizing the pain point and the problem of the prospect, seller or buyer. 2 is demonstrating certainty in the plan and the solution you have to solve that problem and that pain point. And 3 is demonstrating leadership, that you are the right leader and guide to help them through this process, remaining likable and trustworthy throughout. So hopefully this helped. If it did, please drop me a comment below. Share this with somebody who could also benefit from it, who's an aspiring and ambitious agent that wants to simply do more and achieve at higher levels. As always, to your success, your happiness, and your freedom. We'll talk to you next week.